You're listening to the Quince podcast.
Coal, which is used to produce almost 70% of India's electricity, is alarmingly depleting in the country, with stockpiles plunging to the lowest record since 2018 and may only last 3 more days, according to the Power Ministry. As of 4th October, out of the 104 thermal power plants in India, 16 plants, which bring in a significant chunk of the power generation capacity, have 0 days of stocks. 45 of these plants report stocks only for the next couple of days. And with half of the country's coal plants on high alert, India is reportedly staring at a crisis that could go on for as long as 6 months, according to the Power Minister. In an interview with the Indian Express, Power Minister Raj Kumar Singh was quoted saying that it is a quote-unquote touch-and-go situation for the next few weeks. This shortage also comes at a time when the global prices of coal and natural gas, which is predominantly used to power industrial factories and also heat homes, is at a multi-year high. This price increase has been attributed to several countries coming out of the depths of the pandemic and thus the demand of electricity rising. With India stepping into the festival month of October and winters just around the corner, what will be the impact of this shortage on the end consumer? Does this mean an increase in your electricity bills or more than usual power cuts in the coming months? To discuss the factors contributing to this shortage and its impact on the Indian economy, for this episode we spoke with Narendra Taneja, a leading energy expert and the chairman of Independent Energy Policy Institute. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline making news for you, and I'm your host, Himmat. So, how severe is the coal crisis in India at the moment? To understand this, let's take a look at how much electricity coal-fired plants contribute in India. This number is around 208.8 gigawatts, which is nearly 54% of India's installed power generating capacity. Now, before we head into the nitty-gritty of the crisis that the plants are facing, it is important to keep in mind that 1 gigawatt is equal to 1000 megawatts. Now, back to the numbers. As of 4th October, of this 208 gigawatts, plants that can generate a combined power generation capacity of 132 gigawatts have been on high alert. According to an Indian Express report, 16 plants with a power generation capacity of 17,475 megawatts have no reserves, and 45 plants with a generation capacity of 59,790 megawatts have only a few days of stocks left. But if we do have enough power generation capacity, what is causing the shortages? The answer is twofold. First, it is the increase in power consumption as the Indian economy steps out of the folds of the second wave. According to the Power Minister, India touched 200 gigawatts of power consumption during the second wave, and this consumption is currently hovering around 170 to 180 gigawatts, and it is expected to increase in the following months. This increase in demand has also led to a shortfall in coal stockpiles. According to a Bloomberg report, coal stockpiles in India have plunged 76% over the past year. The second factor now is the persistent and long drawn monsoons, which have slowed down the production of coal, flooded mines, and affected the supply chain to factories. Narendra Taneja, a leading energy expert, adds that the reduction of coal being used as a fossil fuel has also increased its price in the market, adding to the supply crunch domestically and internationally.
Well, part of it is, of course, the resurgence of demand in the sense, whether it's China or India, for that matter, the whole world. Dependence on coal is very, very high. If you look at the global energy mix, 67% to almost close to 70% of electricity globally is generated using coal. So there is resurgence demand. At the same time, you see that, if you look at the size of investment that has gone into the coal sector in terms of exploration and production, processing, upgrading mines, upgrading technology, and so on and so forth, that has suffered tremendously last 3-4 years in general, and since the COVID, most particularly. Two reasons for that. Number one, that, the coal is under severe attack from the so-called green lobby. Yeah. And there are many companies, many investors, many movements going on that, look, they have basically started showing their back to the coal sector. Investors in particular, especially in the western part of the world. So the result is that coal industry as a whole, which, as I said, is still the backbone of global electricity system, has been demonized. And the result is that, that it's not attracting sufficient capital, good technology, and at the same time, it's not no longer attracting the best talent in terms of business managers and others. So the result is that, the coal sector as a whole, the world over, has suffered in some countries more than the other. But globally, if you look at the coal situation, people are demonizing it, they're painting it black, and at the same time, not realizing that look, when it comes to global economy and especially economies of many economies like India and China and several others, coal will remain a very central source of energy for a long, long time to come.
So, does this mean that we are maybe looking at a long term energy crunch? And how is this going to affect you as a consumer? Fortunately, there have not been any large scale power outages in India at the moment. According to a Quartz analysis, the shortages have mostly been restricted to northern states like Jammu and Kashmir and Uttar Pradesh. However, what is taking a hit is India's non power generating industry, which are already facing power shortages and rationing of coal reserves from the government. For example, the aluminium industry in India, which has been pleading with Coal India, which is the center run coal manufacturing company, to restore coal supplies. According to one Bloomberg report, a mere outage of 2 hours can result in freezing of molten metal, resulting in the aluminium smelter being shut for up to 6 months. And now these industries are left with the daunting option of meeting their coal supply needs from the international market, where the price of coal has swelled up tenfold. If you look at the top two countries that India imports coal from, which is Indonesia and Australia, in the former, the price of coal rose from $45 for a metric ton at the start of this year to its current price of nearly $120. In Australia, which is the largest exporter of coal in the world, the price of coal has increased from $54 in September 2020 to over $200 in 2021. Mr. Taneja believes that India is at a crucial stage before the winter months set in to act on the coal shortage crisis, and the next 4 to 6 weeks are critical.
I think this shortage that we have seen at power plants and industries are in a way unprecedented in the sense because there is sufficient coal available, and we have got sufficient number of wagons, and the roadways are there, roads are there. We have got other ways to transport if required. So I think if the state and central government and state governments, of course, need to cooperate because they play a very important role in coal mining, and they also profit from it in terms of royalties and other things. And at the same time, Coal India. I think if there are reports that they are meeting these days 24/7, if the reports are true and they are able to produce better cooperation and coordination, then I think things should begin to change soon. And my own thing is that we have got still 6 weeks before the winter sets in the northern part of the country, in the true sense of the term, and at the same time the power demand goes up very high because the winter sets in, demand goes up. So they have got 6 weeks. So I think that if they really act fast, we have got a very good window to fix things, to put things in order so that there are no shortages. But if they are not able to do it, if they go on the same way as they had the last 8 weeks, then I think we are in for trouble. But my sense is that, given the situation, given that everybody is talking about it, given the fact that coal is in a way backbone of the Indian economy, I think we don't need to worry too much. But it's important to keep a close eye on the coming 4 to 6 weeks. The 4 to 6 weeks are critical.
He further adds that it is not only the unprecedented rains and demand which have caused the current crisis, but also the lack of reforms and management of resources in the coal sector over the past few decades.
Well, the coal sector is so big, so huge, and at the same time so extremely complex that, of course, we have got a dedicated Ministry of Coal in the country. But at the same time, if you ask for my personal opinion, coal sector run quite on its own. I remember in a television debate where I was also participating 7, 8, 9 years, 8 years ago, and then Coal Minister Mr. Jaiswal of the UPA too. And I said, look, in a part of the argument, I said to the Coal Minister, I said, look, it seems the coal sector is hardly 40% under your control. 60% of the coal sector is quite on its own, quite independent of the government. And then he actually objected. He said, no, it's not 40%, it's 30%. He said, I'm coal minister, but I control only max 30%, not more. It's kind of, it has a life of its own. It has a direction of its own. It has basically even a policy of its own. That's what he said. in the TV debate. Now, the point I'm trying to drive home is that it's such a huge sector and so extremely complex when it comes to the realities on the ground in all those areas where mines are located. And those who are familiar with those areas, there are many issues, and many of these issues have been around for very, very long time, since we have not reformed the coal sector as aggressively as we should have done, let's say, already 30 years ago. Coal sector is still run more like the way things used to be run before the economic reforms. So therefore, the problems have only been difficulties, whether it's mining itself or technology or capital, have been accumulating over all these years. And the result is what it is today. For instance, that you find that despite the fact that we have got the third largest reserves of coal in the country, we face coal shortages when it comes to burner, when it comes to industry, like you mentioned, aluminium and some other industry. Basically the problems are down there, especially in the areas where the coal reserves lie. And there we need to, unless we modernize them, we bring capital, we bring, better technology, and we bring more efficient, management expertise. Things are unlikely to change.
What the shortages of coal and its monumental price increase also signal is perhaps the need to cut back on fossil fuels. However, the push for renewable energy in India has largely stumbled and slowed down, according to a recent report by the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. According to the report, India's 2022 commitments towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions have fallen short abysmally due to the COVID-19 lockdowns. For example, India was supposed to install 100 gigawatts of solar energy capacity by March 2023, but as of 31st July, it has only managed 43.94 gigawatts in total. And when it comes to the long-term commitments of green energy, India has pledged 175 gigawatts by 2022 and 450 gigawatts by 2030. However, the report highlighted that only 7 gigawatts of such capacity was added by March 2021. So, should the existing coal crisis and the growing commitment of international players like the US towards green energy be a signal for India to push more towards renewables in the coming years? Narendra Taneja agrees that green energy is the future, but the transition towards it is a multi-decade project, and proper planning is required to fulfill these commitments.
You see, it's building a narrative or building even policy for that matter is easy. That, all right, we need to focus more on renewables. The question is how? You see, everybody is talking about electric vehicles. Very good, fine. Even if you bring technology and you basically, force people to switch to electric vehicles, where is the electricity is going to come from? Where is fuel for that electricity is going to come from? 70% of electricity that we consume today is coming from coal, but you have demonized it. Bulk of energy is coming from natural gas. You have demonized natural gas too. 80,000 megawatt electricity is producing diesel. You have demonized diesel also. Now the point is where that electricity is going to come from. So we got to understand that renewables is the way forward, but it's going to take time. We are very blessed in terms of solar radiation. The quality is compromised, but still we are blessed in terms of potential of solar power. But then 90% of solar equipment that we use, like panels and cells and all, are imported. 90%. If you look at the capital which is employed in many of these solar power plants in the country, is foreign capital. So the issues here is that and many of the solar power plants are also facing the issues in terms of paying their debt back and loans back and so on and so forth. Now the issue is that they're putting a lot of pressure on India in particular from western part of the world and international organizations that do more. India has already done very well. If you look at, for instance, performance in terms of renewable, India is among the top 2 countries in the world. We are already running so fast that we started facing problems. So important point here is that renewable, we are doing very well. Yes, we need to do more, but there is no shortcut. Coal will remain central to India's economy for 20 years, minimum. Natural gas will remain central to India's economy for 30 years, minimum. Oil will remain central to India's economy for at least another 18 to 25 years, minimum. Minimum. Coal pollutes. Oil pollutes. Natural gas also pollutes. Yes, they all pollute. Now we have to bring technology so that we can use these sources of fuel in a more environment-friendly manner. That's the way forward for us. At the same time, invest more in nuclear power, invest more in solar, invest more in hydrogen. All that to go simultaneously. But what they want is to shut down coal power plant, shut down gas-fired power plant. That is not a very logical, very sensible solution. So we need to go do more in terms of renewables, but at the same time, it's important that Indian economy needs more oil in order to to pull these millions and millions living in poverty. We need more natural gas, we need more coal, and we need more oil. At the same time, we need to invest more and actually as heavily as possible in renewables.
Power Minister R.K. Singh, in an interview with NDTV, said that the country at present will be able to meet the demands. However, with depleting supplies, the crisis is deepening, and it is a huge concern with festivals and winters just around the corner. If you liked listening to this episode, please subscribe to The Big Story for episodic updates. We're available on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website, and for any feedback, please shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.